Hello and welcome to Miniature Realms YouTube channel and my epic Battles ACW vlog number 8. Just really catching up on the progress that I've made in the last week or so since the last vlog. As usual, been chipping away at the rank and file. Just trying to sort of do larger batch paints at the moment, so I get a few regiments on the table in one go. Still kind of a few, probably a month or so off playing a small game at the moment, but that's not an issue. I wasn't planning to at this stage anyway. Still enjoying doing the wider stuff and researching, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. I've continued my research on from what I talked about in vlog number 7. I did finish Mead and put him on a stand like I did with Lee. The flag is the Army of Potomac one. It is removable. In the different campaigns and different battles, obviously he's got a different rank. And I thought about this a little bit. I think one of my earlier vlogs I talked about the sizes of basing that I was going to use, and these big 60mm for sort of core and army level, and then smaller for divisional and smaller again for brigade. And I'm probably going to cut it to 2 sizes now, so I'm going to use these big 60mm for the bigger names and people that maybe that they may have been a major general or something in some battles, but they would have gone on to lead whole corps or armies later on. So I'm just going to trim it down a little bit. So he's on a big base because of Gettysburg. The first game, as you know if you've been following the vlog, I'm looking to sort of build towards will be Antietam, where he commanded a brigade. So he will have a very big base compared to some of the other brigadiers, but that's all brigadier generals, but it doesn't really matter, does it? So you've got the resin George Meade and the flag bearer from the sort of limited edition in inverted commas from the earlier pre-orders, and one of the plastic commanders on here. And I've kept the basing to match all the other stuff as well, added some extra tufts and bits and bobs on there. There's some broken up MDF frame as well from buildings to look like sort of broken up and sort of stacked wood and things, but other than that he's fine. I don't think they look quite as impressive or photograph quite as well as the Confederates do ever. I just think that's the nature of trying to capture blue, but trying to capture blue on camera in this way as well, and partly my painting as well. It's probably just naturally suited to do the Confederates. I just think they look a bit shinier, but I'm reasonably happy with it. It's more than good enough to be for this scale on the tabletop. So he's done anyway. It's nice to have something painted on there. I'm going to pop a couple of stills up as well now, just so you can get a better idea of it rather than me just spinning it around like this. So they're going to go on the screen now. And then what I've done, I've been continuing to look at the preparation needed for Antietam. There's been a few really useful comments and things and books to look at and buy based on the comments I made in vlog number 7. So I'm just going to kind of show you my progress for that now. So I've continued to sort of base my list around the book, The Brave Hearts Trembled, Regimental War Game Scenarios for the Battle of Antietam by Brad Bakovich. So there's loads of really useful comments to the last video when I talked about this, and it was really good sort of engaging with a lot of you and talking about things and picking up some of the tips and things. I think overall most of the comments were made with things that I'd said or were thinking about anyway, in terms of sort of don't be frightened to abstract, and people telling me what sort of figure scales and things that they were using, and then pointed me towards, reminded me that in Glory Hallelujah there is a section on the size of units and on what we should look for as an average. It's on page, we have a little look, I've got it up here as it is, so it's on page number 76. This is my digital version, but basically it sort of to sort of sum it up, says that regiment sizes in the American Civil War, as we know, are really, really mixed. So that makes it sort of a blessing as well as a bit of a hindrance for war gamers. It's not as easy for us to sort of say, well, X amount of men equal a large, etc., etc. It did talk about, if you look at, and it gave one example for one battle, but it talks a little bit about sort of the averages and things like that. So what it says is, let us now consider a typical formation. Birney's 1st Division of the 3rd Corps, Army of the Potomac at Gettysburg. This would seem suitable for our purposes. Birney commanded 3 brigades totaling some 5,000 men in 18 regiments. These averaged about 270 combatants each, though they varied from the smallest at 150 and the largest at 430, nearly 3 times bigger. Okay, so the example immediately sets out a useful benchmark. Let us consider that the 430 strong regiment would be our standard unit. Hence the 150 strong regiment would be declared as a tiny unit, and I won't go on from there. But so I've kind of used the 150 as a tiny unit as in my sort of base figures. I'm just going to pop those on the screen now. And you will see this is the kind of outline I'm working to, and it doesn't, you can change it, and I may change it for different scenarios as well, but for Antietam this is what I'm working on, and it's designed to have a slightly larger range there to capture regular, so I want to see more regular, or as many as possible on the table. So I've gone from up to 150 I will class as a tiny regiment, small kind of that up to 299. Now bearing in mind, if I'm looking at an order of battle and there's a regiment that's at 14151 or something like that, I may well make it tiny. There's going to be enough flexibility there. It doesn't have to be a hard or fast rule. These are just outlined. Regular 300 to 549. I did drop that down a little bit, just in the process of kind of totting up regiments and seeing how low the numbers generally were, regardless of what the on paper establishment levels should be of regiments. They were just nowhere near that, and maybe only for a very short period, some of them at the beginning of the war, so it becomes irrelevant really. There's no point in comparing it to large regiments in Napoleonic War either. So basically the capture is there that anything above 550 then becomes large for me, and 5 stands. So you may not all agree with that. I don't think it matters too much, as long as that's set up for this particular game. I'm not saying that this is the way you should manage it for all games of Black Powder. This is the way I'm setting up the Antietam game. I may vary that slightly depending on the table size I've got, the amount of miniatures I've got to refight a certain battle. If there's less miniatures on the table, I might want to see more miniatures, so I may want to make those a little bit bigger. But that's what I'm working to for this game anyway. So as I said, had some help and suggestions, and Ralph Astley, who's got a great channel himself. Actually, I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes, so if you haven't come across him, he's got far more subscribers than I have. He's been around a while, so you may well have seen his stuff before, but he's really helpful. A really long comment. One of the things he mentioned was grabbing, it's not the camera there, sorry about that, was grabbing this book, Unit Organizations of the American Civil War by Richard J. Zimmerman. And I looked on Amazon and it was there. It was really cheap. It was about £2 or £3, so I purchased it. So basically I've used this and the order of battles which you saw last time. So already there. This and the book I mentioned last time, Antietam, the Soldiers' Battle as well, by John Michael Priest. Looking at the 3 sources, most of the time the number that is in Butkovich's book, most of the time it was exactly the same. So most of these numbers you see here were exactly the same, or really close to what was in either of these 2 books. Where I found a difference, sometimes it was, it was 10, 15, 20, and for the purposes of creating stands and playing in Black Powder, it's irrelevant. I didn't need to adjust at all. So I found my adjustments weren't really made on establishment levels. They were made more around averaging units and things out, which we'll see a little bit more in a moment. But let's look at some examples. Now I'm going to flick through my iPad, and I haven't prepped this, so I wrote this on my iPad in the last couple of days. I haven't prepped this on my Mac yet, so you can video the screen when I'm doing it. So I'm just going to pop some images up as I do it over me looking on the screens. But what I've done is copied all the data out of Braveheart's Trembled in terms of the unit name, the corps, the division, etc., commanders, and then I've added established estimated strength or establishment strength, black powder unit size, and then the number of epic stands that will be, just to help me sort of compile them for the tabletop. This isn't finished yet. The plan is to go back and put commander ratings on for each of the commanders. There are versions of that in the Braveheart's Trembled book, but I left them off for now, and I'm going to go back and see if I can kind of look at them and read his comments on them, and then convert them into the black powder versions. So as you can see, if we look right from the top here, so we've got the 1st Brigade under Colonel Walter Phelps Jr. The brackets are the total number of men under his command, so 425. And then you see that because of the establishment level of these New York regiments are so small, those 4 regiments only add up to 161 men. That's just scrapes into the small. I could almost round that down to tiny if I wanted to, but I want to have as few tiny regiments on the table as possible. I want a few there for a bit of flavour, but small. And I've already put that wrong because I've put 1 stand for each of those, so my maths is already going to be wrong on those. Right, I will adjust those before the image I put up on the screen. So, and then you see the 2nd United States Sharpshooters, also a small unit. Now I could have combined them all together into a regular sized unit, but I quite like the idea of putting together all the 4 New York regiments there, and then having the Sharpshooters, who have got a special identity of their own anyway, slightly separately, so at least they can be represented as something different on the field. And especially the Sharpshooters, they may have different weapons, or I think in this scenario in Braveheart's Trembled, they are worth extra victory points, etc. And then we can scroll on, and you can see the same thing going on as the artillery numbers and things. I haven't worked out those into black powder yet, but you get the idea that quite often 2 units I've combined, or Butkovich has combined. Sometimes he's done it, and sometimes I've separated them up a little bit for a certain reason, often when different states regiments are mixed, and they can be mixed together in a different way, so that I can kind of say, well, this regiment with this flag, with this state flag, is representing these 3 or 4, as you can see with these Pennsylvania ones here. There's 2 Pennsylvania and another 2, and then a 3rd. I'm just trying to even it out, so we've got a nice mix of regiment sizes. But like in the first example I gave you, when the so you look here, if we go down to 1st Brigade, Brigadier General Samuel W. Crawford, the 10th Maine and the 28th New York could easily be put together into 1 regiment to get rid of the need for the tiny. You could even pop in the 46th Pennsylvania as well, and that will maybe become another large regiment rather than having 2 tiny and a regular. I haven't done that because I want the identity of these different states, and also I want I like the idea of there being a little bit of a mix of some things looking small and some of these 3 that are larger. You can see they're all the same number. It's because the data we have, that these historians have, was an overall establishment level, and they've just done some dividing up where they could, and averaging out. So that's the idea there. I've got another tab which I'll open up now, and that has the Army of Northern Virginia in, and I've done the same things for those. So some of the Confederate ones are an awful lot smaller as well. So if we get all the way down to some of, say, everyone's favourites, but often favourite, we get down to Jones's division, which was the old Stonewall's, Jackson's old division, I believe. You got the Stonewall Brigade, 281 in total, 2 stands that will be in black powder, and there's 5 regiments on paper there, and they're commanded by a colonel there. So you can see they're going to be essentially operating like a regiment, aren't they, when they're that small? I think there's so few men left, so it makes sense for them to be banded together. So I've got on paper which these famous regiments and what they were, but there's no way you could have 5 tiny units there. It'd be silly in the game, so you're better off having a small regiment. And you see similar with a lot of this division, to be honest with you. Taliaferro's brigade slightly better, so small and irregular. Jones's, again, as a regular, just scrapes into regular with 4, and then Stark's brigade as well. It's split into 2 regular, 3 well, they're all Louisiana, and you've got the Coppins battalion there as well, which I believe are Zouaves. So, and I'm not sure how any of these other regiments may be, so I've got a bit of research to do there. But I feel I've got a balance between putting some together to make them useful. See here. We get down to Garland's brigade now, and Garland's brigade is the 5th North Carolina, 425, which is a regular unit by itself, but then I needed to add together all the other 4 North Carolina units to make another regular one, rather than having them all as tiny. But again, two regular sized units there, using the Carolina flag, etc., etc. It's just a good way of making sure that they appear on the battle table. But that's it really. And we're looking, I think, for I've got to tot it up a little bit again, but I think we are looking at about 33 units, and I use the term units because there's a bit of a mix between what is regiments and what is essentially brigades acting as a regiment. So we are talking units. 33, I believe, for the Confederates, where there's 2 tiny, 8 small, 20 regular and 2 large, and that's what I wanted to make sure happened, was that you have predominantly regular ones. I think that's like 84 stands, and then you've got for the Army of the Potomac, I think it's 40 units, 6 tiny, 11 small, 16 regular and 7 large. So they do have more large, and I believe that's 104, I think. So I've got to check my maths on there, but that's what I've got to now. When I've done the final totting up and I've added all of the brigade commanders, command levels and things like that, I'll come back to it and sort of give you my final layout and plans and things as well. I've got some maps on the way, some terrain being made, so I'll even be able to sort of start talking about the layout. No plans of when I'm going to play this game yet, but we know we're getting there. But hopefully that was interesting to a few of you. And then a final thing before I go, I really wanted to just show something. So I talked a little bit about how wonderful some of you have been to me, giving me advice and things. And then Ralph Astley, who was giving me some of those brilliant long messages and comments and stuff, very, very kindly sent me some 3D prints he did. And this is a Dunker Church, I believe in 10mm. So let me zoom in a little bit. Hopefully we can get it so it's visible, because it is black, so it doesn't always show up very well. But this is a 10mm Dunker Church, which in terms of ground scale for fitting it all on a 6x4 table, which is the plan, may well be better suited than a lot of the 15mm buildings out there. And it's a good 10mm. I don't know if you remember those little 10mm buildings. Those of you who have watched all these vlogs, I had bought some 10mm buildings a little while back, and they were quite diddy compared to this. So this looks a pretty good size. Sorry about the focusing issues. I think it's really struggling with the black. There we go. It's a little bit better. Change the focus setting slightly. So I think it's great. It's got a little bit to clean up to do. I think he said there was he's made a few of them, and he's got what he wanted in the right size, and it was spare, and he just asked me if I would like it, and I said, yeah, how much would you like for it? And he wouldn't take any money, he wouldn't even let me pay any postage. So a complete gentleman. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ralph, for sending it. It's great. He sent me a couple of buildings that have had problems when they're in the print as well, slightly misshapen, for me to see if I can fix or do anything with. So they're wonderful as well. I'm no doubt will be able to work and do something with those. But I'm very, very happy with this. This is great. It's exactly what I needed, and it's definitely going to be on my table for what I've been planning for this Battle of Antietam. Anyway, I am definitely rabbiting now, so hopefully it's those of you who enjoyed these vlogs found something interesting there. I'm not sure the next one will be about. We will see what progress I do or so in a week or so, but thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe, and share to other people and let other people know who are interested in this period that I'm covering it, and I'll catch you all soon.